The federal government has announced a 7-week roadmap for the proposed National Policing Bill, inviting Nigerians to submit policy proposals and memoranda as part of efforts to establish a comprehensive and well-structured state police framework. Speaking at a press briefing after a meeting of the Presidential Working Group at the State House Abuja, the Chief of Staff to the President and Chairman of the Working Group, Femi Gbajabiamila, announced the abduction of a 7-week work program running from July 27th to September 14th, 2026, with a draft scheduled to be presented to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the 3rd of September, which will help review the national standards, define state readiness, and guarantee the creation of a state police framework free of political inclination, federal intervention, or personal interferences, as they highlighted the need for public participation throughout the course of the process.
Administrative and technical preparations have been underway, and today's meeting formally mobilizes the next stage. The resulting executive bill package is scheduled for presentation to the President on the 3rd of September. Subject to his approval, a national consultation on the completed draft will follow. But I think that we have tweaked that so the national consultation will come before the President's final approval. After which, the text and supporting materials will be revised and prepared for formal transmission to the National Assembly. Public participation is an integral part of this process. To that end, we are announcing an open call for memoranda, position papers, and practical proposals from Nigerians at home and abroad. Professional bodies, civil society, security institutions, state and local actors, experts, and other stakeholders to inform and improve the legislative proposals and other deliverables that the working group will produce. We recognize the concerns that accompany this reform: the fear of political abuse, unequal state capacity, duplication of commands, poor funding, ethnic or sectional capture, and the possibility that new institutions could reproduce old failures. Those concerns are legitimate. They are precisely why the constitutional amendment cannot be treated as self-executing, and why the National Policing Bill must be comprehensive, and safeguards are not obstacles to state police. They are what makes state police credible, lawful, and sustainable. The government is proceeding on a clear principle. Local policing capability must be matched by national safeguards. State police cannot mean 36 state militias, just as national standards cannot become a disguised method of re-centralizing day-to-day state policing. States must have a legitimate policy voice on public safety, but no political office holder should be able to direct the arrest of an opponent.
The representative of the Nigerian Governors Forum and Governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun, and the Attorney General of the Federation, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, highlighted the efforts of the federal government to review the amended bill in order to establish a police framework free from external influence or individual control.
I must first appreciate the chairman and Dr. Dubem and his group for working very hard on trying to ensure that what we consider as one of the most, if not the most, consequential reforms of this administration is seen to implementation. Because what we've seen and witnessed is the amendment of the Constitution, and we've seen a groundswell of support by the entirety of Nigerians, with a very high level of expectation that they believe that once the amendment was completed by the National Assembly, the next thing is for states to begin to implement their various state policing systems. And the truth is that what this working group is working on is what would allow for the details of that implementation, which will be reflected in the bill. And that's what we're working on. Someone has to be responsible for ensuring that that amendment now reflects in a bill that can be operated, and that's what we're working on. So this bill has to do with different consequential amendments to other parts of the Constitution that we may not even realize. For example, the firearms bill, which only allows and recognizes a unitary policing system, now has to be, and so many other bills, areas of separation. Where do the powers of the federal police stop? Where do the powers of the state police start? You talked about, someone talked about funding. Some states may not have as much capacity as others. Of course, they will recruit as many policemen that they want in their state, and I'm sure that part of what we're doing also would recommend some form of grant from the federal to ensure a startup.
The one that interests me the most is the issue of what happens for states who have not been able to, come on board. Like it has been said, law abhors vacuum, so the federal presence will continue to dominate in that area. And on the issue of minimum standard, you just have to have this to ensure that citizens adequately protected. Don't forget that the main thrust of this bill is to ensure security of lives and property, and it is also important that we do not make the state police or state policing a weapon of political persecution or oppression. There must be standard, there must be the minimum threshold to guarantee the continued existence and operation of the society. So the standard is prescribed to ensure that it accords with what obtains offshore, that is globally recognized standard. If you are onboarding from the federal to the state police, it is important that the same benefit that you will derive must not be any less. The only difference will now be, okay, one is by the federal, the other one is by the state. If you leave the door open, then it means all sorts of situations will come in, and this will not be good enough for the society.